we now get you breaking details of how Donald Trump is leaving for Alaska for truce talks with Vladimir Putin. That is all set to happen. In fact, US President Donald Trump, who will be meeting his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin, a meeting that is very keenly being watched on what happens as part of it. Now, the two are scheduled to meet on Friday in Alaska. It is a high-stakes and high-risk summit that could prove decisive for the future of Ukraine and the entire globe that is watching this meeting very, very carefully. Those are the pictures on your screens as US President Donald Trump has set off for Alaska for truce talks with Vladimir Putin. The summit that is set to take place at Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson in Anchorage, Alaska's largest military installation and a Cold War base for surveillance of the Soviet Union. Vladimir Putin will also step onto Western soil for the first time since he had ordered the invasion of Ukraine in February 2022. Thousands of people who have lost their lives as part of this war that has been ongoing for more than 2 years. Russia has not relented. Rather, they've made rapid gains. Now, we're also learning that several activities that are underway in the city that is bracing for the two leaders as part of this big meet. And it is to an extent where flight restrictions to hotels all have been booked out, all set to welcome Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin in that high-stakes meet that is set to take place. Anchorage playing host to Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin. In fact, Trump, who is expected to land at 10 a.m. local time, and Putin, who will land about 50 minutes later than Donald Trump. Let me cut across to India Today Global Editor Pranay Upadhyay with further details as Donald Trump is all set to leave and everyone watching what will turn out in this meeting very, very closely.
Definitely, Suesha. This is a high-stake meeting, as rightly put by Donald Trump himself. He said that the high stakes are there as far as this meeting is concerned. And after a decade, Russian President Vladimir Putin will be on US soil, and he would be meeting a US president after 4 years, and this is after 6 years. He would be meeting President Donald Trump again. So definitely this is going to be a very high-stake meeting. But what will be the outcome of this meeting? There are a lot of things on agenda, and if you see the composition of team accompanying both the principals, if you could see that the Trade Secretary is there, the Finance Secretary, U.S. Treasury Secretary is there. On the other side, the Russian Finance Minister is also accompanying Russian President Vladimir Putin. Sergei Lavrov, who's the Foreign Minister of Russia, is already there in Anchorage in Alaska. So definitely on foreign policy side, on the trade and commerce side, on the economic cooperation, so length and breadth of the relationship will be discussed on this big meeting. Besides the agenda of Ukraine war and the possible ceasefire solution. So this talk or this high-stake meeting will not be limited only to Russia-Ukraine conflict, but both the leaders are likely to discuss the other issues as well, including the Arctic Council composition, along with that the Arctic energy and mineral resource usage and other aspects of it. And also Russia and Ukraine, Russia and US have the treaty, which is called the START treaty, regarding the nuclear weapon, and it's keeping the nuclear weapon stockpile in check. So that treaty is also due to expire in February 2026, and ahead of that, both the leaders are likely to discuss that. The statement given by Russian President Vladimir Putin clearly indicates that he is willing to discuss all the issues with his US counterpart Donald Trump, and he has expressed hope that there could be a positive solution, there could be a positive outcome of it. However, President Donald Trump has said that there are only 25% chances that there could be a big breakthrough. But we know that as far as the Russia-Ukraine conflict is concerned, this meeting is going to give us the direction that how this can be reached to a solution, what could be that solution. But before sealing any formula or any ceasefire agreement, a trilateral meeting is required, which President Donald Trump also indicated that after meeting President Vladimir Putin, he would be calling up President Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine, and thereafter he'll try and make both the leaders sit together and have a solution.
Rani, continue talking to us because this is a high-stakes meeting, and Trump, in his poll promise before he came to power, had said that the moment I come to power, I will solve this issue within 24 hours. He had also boasted of his equation with Vladimir Putin. Things didn't turn out that way, but can it turn around in this meeting is what everyone is waiting to watch. We also heard from Sergei Lavrov, who said that we have nothing to be nervous because we are very clear about our position. What is going to be the strategy of the United States, and who all are accompanying Donald Trump for this meeting?
Who all are accompanying President Donald Trump. So Secretary Scott Bessent, who's the Secretary of Treasury, he's accompanying Howard Lutnick, who's the Commerce Secretary of United States. Besides that, Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, he is also accompanying, and also CIA Director John Ratcliffe, he's also accompanying President Donald Trump to Anchorage for this high-stake meeting. Besides that, the Russian President is being accompanied by his Defense Minister, his Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, you mentioned, is already there in Anchorage. Besides that, his special advisor Kirill Dmitriev is also accompanying President Vladimir Putin. And if you see, besides these, besides these statements, there has been a lot of back-channel talks between both the sides, Russians and the US side. And on 6th of August, when a special envoy of US President Donald Trump, Steve Witkoff, when he visited Moscow, he had a personal audience, he has a personal meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin, and thereafter there was a confirmation by Kremlin that soon there is going to be a meeting with US President Donald Trump, and which later on confirmed by the US side as well, and that's why within 7 days this thing was worked out. But before that, there were a lot of things went in for the preparation of these things. US President, you rightly pointed it out, that it was his poll promise. He said those things that I can end this war with just a phone call to Vladimir Putin and to Vladimir Zelensky. This war would not have started if he would have been the President of the United States in White House, but it happened. And even yesterday, he expressed the hope, he expressed his willingness to engage with the Russian side, but he also warned the Russian side that if the talks fail, then there would be serious consequences for Russia, because we know that on the Hill, on the Capitol Hill, the Sanctioning Russia Act is, which is a bipartisan act, which is there for the consideration, which allows 500% tariffs on Russia, and also the secondary tariffs on countries, those who would do business with Russia. So definitely, it has, we as Indian, India also have interest in this summit, because we are facing
Right.
this additional 25% tax tariff just because we are buying Russian oil.
Right. Rani, I request you to please stay on, as we also have Sergei Strokin. He is a Russian journalist. He joins us on the broadcast. Sergei, I want to get updates from your end to how Russia is planning to approach this very important meeting with Donald Trump. In fact, Donald Trump had also in the past acknowledged his frustration with Vladimir Putin and warned of severe consequences if he does not accept a ceasefire. A lot rests on this meeting that is to happen. How is Russia approaching it?
Thanks for having me. To start with, there's a lot of outcry in the world over this summit meeting, which is already called historic. With all that euphoria, while trying not to be too optimistic, I want to highlight that this will be the first full-fledged US-Russian summit in the last 10 years. Can you imagine? That's a decade. And that's a fundamental change in the whole story of ill-fated US-Russian relations, which during President Biden reached their lowest point. If we look at the situation from this perspective, we will understand that this summit is not only about Ukraine, while obviously Ukraine is the key issue. This is about restoring and revamping the dialogue window between Russia and America. We want, and we make itself clear that we want US-Russian relations not to be the hostage to Ukrainian crisis. And this is a fundamental shift since President Biden made it entirely focused on Ukraine. And we've seen that relations were crippled because of the stubborn American position on Ukraine. They were saying not a single decision on Ukraine without Ukraine. There was a sanction war. So, but apart from that, Russia and America as the key global nuclear powers, which used to share the global the responsibility for the stability and international crisis, were unable to at least conduct minimum dialogue. So probably this would not be the case anymore after President Putin and President Trump meet in Alaska. Let me add to that, there's a lot of misconception, especially in the Western media, and a lot of distortion when they discuss who stands to win and who stands to lose more. Probably you've seen all those publications that Putin is trying to outsmart President Trump, that Putin is the sole winner. Well, I can hardly subscribe for this theory for simple reason that it is not only Russia and America who stand to win, but the whole world. Is China going to win if this is a success? Obviously, yes. If India, the same thing. Brazil, other countries also. The world, in the last years, the world was crippled with the sanction wars, with a lot of tension, with muscle flexing. So all of us, all the humanity want to side with relief. That's why I think we should stop talking about who stands to win more.
Right.
It will either win-win situation for all of us, Russians, Americans, Europeans, Chinese, Indians, or lose for everyone.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And I'd like to take this point to my colleague Pranay, who continues to be with us on the broadcast. Pranay, there is a reason that the whole world is watching this meeting very closely. India also, that will bear the consequences of it. We've seen all that has happened over importing Russian oil and the ongoing tariffs war with the United States. We await what eventually turns out on that decision. And like I said, an implication of tonight's meeting that will also have an impact on this decision.
Definitely, Suesha. And India has been a collateral as far as this case is concerned, because the previous Biden administration acknowledged India's help in buying Russian oil, because it actually helped the global economy and it actually helped the crude oil prices globally. Because India bought oil. India is one of the largest purchaser of energy from the international market, and India's oil purchase bill actually helped to stabilize the oil prices in the international crude market. But President Donald Trump is holding another view, and that's why he started holding India responsible for fueling the so-called the Russian war machine. I don't know how he has worked out this formula, because the $2 trillion economy of Russia is not being funded and fueled by Indian oil purchase, which amounts to be only like 50 or $55 billion. But US President Donald Trump not only holds this opinion, but he also, added the additional 25% tariff on India. And after that, India is facing definitely difficulty, and we are engaging with the US side as well. But recently, after the 6th of August meeting between US President Donald Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff and US and Russian President Vladimir Putin, President Putin called up Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and they had a brief conversation about the updates on Ukraine front as well. He also briefed him about his probable and possible meeting with the US President Donald Trump, and as well as the international and regional issues of mutual concern and mutual interest. So definitely Russia is also aware about the fact that any secondary tariff added by US side will actually strain the relation with other countries as well, and also the economy of the partner countries who are doing business with Russia. So I think he's also mindful about the fact, as our expert rightly pointed it out, that the kind of composition we are looking on the Russian side, President Putin is traveling with his defense minister, he's traveling with his finance minister, he's also traveling with his special envoy Kirill Dmitriev. So clearly he is looking at this meeting in terms of bilateral engagement with the United States, larger issues right from the international cooperation between US and Russia to the bilateral trade cooperation between the two countries, and also the Arctic, the Arctic cooperation between and the energy or mineral resource usage in that region with the United States. So definitely President Putin is looking at this meeting with a larger agenda, and where the Russia-Ukraine conflict will definitely be on the table, but the conversation will not be restricted to Russia-Ukraine conflict alone.
Right. In fact, Pranay, do stay on as we quickly give our viewers a sense of why the entire world is eyeing the Trump-Putin meeting very closely and what exactly is on the cards as far as this particular meeting is concerned. Now, the first agenda, of course, is a discussion on the possible terms for ceasefire. US has been urging Russia to call for ceasefire as far as the Russian-Ukraine war is concerned. Will Russia do that is the big question. The second agenda is potential territorial, security and political guarantees that will be discussed between the two leaders, and how exactly do they agree on these particular terms. The third agenda, of course, is Russia's position and conditions for ending hostilities. So far, Russia has not budged from its position. As much as we understand that Donald Trump has boasted of his equation with Vladimir Putin, but that has not helped Russia in any way to move from where they stand as far as the Russia-Ukraine war is concerned. The fourth agenda, evaluate any proposal before talking to Zelensky, EU, NATO. Now, this is extremely important because so far sideline conversations have been happening, but this is the US talking to the most important stakeholder, that is Russia. And once what comes out of this meeting is clear, then talks following that will happen with Zelensky, with EU, with the NATO. And the last agenda is also the potential role for NATO and the EU in any future deal, which again will be extremely important because this will, like we said, have implications not just on Russia, Ukraine, United States, but the entire world in that perspective. Let me go back to Sergei Strokin, who continues to be with us on the broadcast. Sergei, because Donald Trump has boasted of his equation with Vladimir Putin so much so that he's blamed Joe Biden for not using his diplomatic tactics well to be able to end the war between Russia and Ukraine, saying that the US has also lost a lot of money because of this war. Now, what are the likely chances that Russia will budge from its position? Because we heard from Sergei Lavrov, who was asked, are you nervous? And he said, no, because we are very clear about what we want.
Well, when it comes to the most difficult situation, and when it comes to the conflicts like Russia-Ukrainian conflict, the key issue obviously is territorial dispute. And Ukrainian crisis is not an exception. As things stand now, there's no any indication that Ukrainian side is in a position, is willing to negotiate any questions of the swap of the territory. Just a bit of a background to you. Before Alaska summit, we had three rounds of negotiations, Russian-Ukrainian negotiations in Istanbul. We tried to talk to Ukrainians, but there was no any single sentence, even not a single word in their proposals which were related to the future of Ukraine, to the swap of the territories. The only thing which were saying, we just need immediate ceasefire. That's all. And just before Alaska summit, President Zelensky made his nationwide appeal saying that I am not in a position to discuss all territorial issues because this is banned by Ukrainian constitution. I can't go be against the Ukrainian constitution. Then when you're asking me what sort of breakthrough can come,
right,
it takes two. If Ukrainian side is saying we are not discussing this is a non-starter, we are not going to discuss this.
All right.
Then there should be some fundamental changes in their position.
Irrespective, we are hoping that it does not end in a stalemate and there is some sort of a conclusion that is beneficial for all. Sergei, I want to thank you for joining us on the broadcast.